Hey Steve, how you doing? How you doing, Jack? Hey Chad, how you doing? Jeffrey, Ron Paul, how's everybody doing? So, believe it or not, I've not had a pipe yet today. So, I need to put that right for a start. I haven't cracked open. I haven't broken in this pipe. I haven't given it its maiden voyage yet. It's one that I did out of the pipe that I couldn't continue making the last Cobra with because it had some fissures on the thing, but it was such a beautiful piece of briar. I just couldn't resist and continued making a pipe with it. However, how you done? Shavua Tov. I brought this pipe out because I wanted to just chill. Although I have a few things to show you, including that pipe rack, which we'll get to in due course. Let's see. Something different. Hey Jeff, how you doing? Shana Tova as well. Yeah, we're getting there. We're almost there. Okay, this is C&D. This is a small batch Carolina Red from 2018. I must be honest, it hasn't bowled me over, but it is actually starting to smell really, really good. It's starting to get a little bit of that vinegary, ketchup-y McClelland aroma, so maybe we're getting somewhere. How you doing, Daniel? Family's doing well, thank God. Can't complain. We've got the Jewish New Year on Monday night, so Tuesday and Wednesday till Wednesday nightfall. My daughter and son-in-law and their two kids are coming to stay for the festival, which is cool. So I'm really looking forward to that. Might have to have the mother-in-law as well, so you know, every cloud, or rather every silver has a cloud. Messed that up, but you know what I'm saying. So it's going to be a couple of days of a lot of synagogue, sitting down for family meals, just the whole period anyway, from New Year right through to the end of the Festival of Tabernacles, a fairly intense period. So there we go. Yeah, Jack, I'm going to need it. That I guarantee. But anyway, it should be fun. Hopefully, as long as things don't explode with the old battle axe. We love it, really. Well, we try to anyway. Porto Alegre, Brazil. Fred, how you doing? Right, let's start with a glug of coffee. Mother-in-law happy with pipe smoking? Haven't the foggiest idea. Wouldn't make any difference to me either way, to be honest. But she has seen some of the pipes and she thinks they're cool. I think she's quite impressed that her son-in-law has actually got some skills. I showed my father yesterday. I took the last cobra that I did for Gary. I took that along to show him, and he was tickled pink when he saw it. Every time I take him a pipe to see, he laughs out of pride. It's like immediate. As soon as he sees it, he's like, "Wow, you've got blessed hands," you know, that kind of thing. And it's really nice. My father's in his mid-80s, and I think it tickles him when he sees it, and it tickles me as well when I see him. Being happy about it. Yeah, I would agree with that, Jack. I'm not sure that smoking utensils kind of fits into that kind of category, but I think they are. I've always kept it kind of on the quiet about my pipe smoking, cigar smoking, and you know, I've talked about this in the past where I've kind of, you know, like a kid behind the bike shed smoking when it comes to my parents. I generally never made a thing of it. I never really wanted them to get upset in case they didn't like the idea. But recently, since I've been doing this more and more full time, not quite full time, but more and more, it's become widely known amongst my family now. My mum actually asked me on Friday, do I smoke a pipe? And I said yes. This is very nice, this Carolina Red. It's very smooth. It's got a lovely retrohale, like a burnt sugary kind of retrohale. Interesting. It reminds me a little bit of Full Virginia Flake, which I would never have thought I'd say about a Cornell and Deal blend. Not to say that they don't make good blends, but it's just I never really would have said that before. It's very smooth. Obviously, 3 years of age is going to do that. The long shank is going to help that. Keep it nice and cool. Possibly the bamboo too. I'm still not sure about that. Whether the bamboo has an effect on the smoke, maybe absorbs some moisture. But for the size, it's a really light pipe. Obviously, it's not a clenching pipe, but you could clench it if you wanted to for a bit. I could sit around here and do that. It's a bit weird with such a long pipe, but it's certainly doable. I'm very happy that I kept this pipe. I hummed and hawed about it. I did put it up for sale initially, and I left it on there for a while, and then after a bit I said, that's it, if it doesn't sell within whatever it was, then I'm taking it myself. As a stem, no, you can't. And you can do what you like, but it won't be very effective. I've kind of got the same dilemma about this one. I'm kind of tempted to offer it up as a seconds, because I mean the fissures on it, they don't go right through. They're just on, but they go about halfway the thickness, and it's only on the top of the bowl. So it's just a gorgeous piece of briar. I mean, beautiful grain on the top, beautiful grain on the bottom. You can't see it with the front-facing camera, but trust me, it's got stunning grain. I mean, if I gave this a contrast, it would look beautiful. I don't know, Idan. I haven't really thought about it. It was when I stopped making the Cobra with it, I kind of almost discarded it and then decided to make a pipe, which I was going to keep for myself. But at the same time, it's a shame not to sell it, because it's a fantastic pipe. You know, and there's no reason why it won't serve somebody for many, many years. The drilling is spot on. Nice thick walls, beautiful smooth finish, and just tip-top grain. Great shape. So I don't know. I haven't really thought about it. If somebody was really interested, then I guess I'd have to come up with a price. I suppose I could do a bowl coating if I did decide to sell it. I'd give that option to the buyer. I suppose that's always a safety net. And I suppose you can never guarantee that the cracks won't increase depending on how you smoke the pipe. If you're a sensible smoker, there's no reason for anything to happen with the pipe. But I have to really make a decision on that. Anyway, there's a couple of things I need to say. I received a couple of packages. One of them, which arrived like that. Look at that. It's a bit ridiculous, but it still arrived. And if the postman would have been a smoker, perhaps it wouldn't have arrived. Because inside it, I'm very, very fortunate to have gotten a 500-gram bag of rich dark flake. I've been wanting to top up my cellar with this for quite some time, and I've been in touch with one of the websites here, and I asked them to, when it does come in, if they could hold me let me know and send me a bag, which they did, which I'm very, very grateful for. I have a full jar of it, but that's a regular jar, but that's all I have. And I tend to, when I'm trying to cellar deep, I tend to try and have a decent amount. And I literally on the last flake, I think, of my previous jar of rich dark flake. So that one was from 2016, I think. So it lasted a really long time. It's not a smoke that I have literally on a daily basis. It's about on par, maybe a bit less even, than Special Latakia flake, which I've also cellared fairly deep on. But those two are really the only Germains that I really stock up on. I'm not a big fan of the rest of them. Penzance, maybe some of the Esoterica ones, but in terms of the Germain ones, those are the two really that I smoke with any regularity. I don't think it was a drop. This was just something which the guy kept behind. It is filtered, yes, Idan, it is filtered. So I got this delivery, which is an absolute mystery to me, because I don't remember ordering anything like this. And I'm just wondering whether somebody knows where this came from. So this is a Record Power mini chuck, SC2 mini chuck, and I suspect that somebody has ordered it and sent it to me, but they certainly haven't told me about it. Do I have a pound of any blends? I have a pound easily of Special Latakia flake. I must have a pound of vanilla cream. I've got loads of tins of it, and I've got 8 ounces in bulk, and loads of tins. So I must have well over a pound of that. Northwoods, I've probably got over a pound of. I've got over a pound of mature Virginia, McBaron's mature Virginia. I kind of go on and off that tobacco. I used to be a big fan. It's an interesting tobacco. There's so much going on in that tobacco. I'm interested to see what happens with more age. I mean, it is old anyway. I got a pound bag, which is from 2014, something like that, maybe. They stopped making it for a while. You suspect it was James. It's very possible it was James, but he hasn't told me anything about it yet. Dark Twist, I'm not sure. OGS, yeah, definitely over a pound. Well, when I say definitely, probably. I can't say for sure. I haven't totted it up, to be honest. I would like to top up with more Orley Golden Sliced. I probably have about, well, come to think of it, I've probably got about a kilo and a half, I'd imagine. So what's that, about 2.5 pounds? And that was topped up massively by Jeff recently, WV, who sent me 7 or 8 tins of it via James. So this is like a mini chuck, but this will actually fit on my big lathe. I think, from what I can see, it'll fit on the big lathe, which obviously means somebody knows what I'm using. And it also comes with, I think this is an adapter to put it on a smaller lathe. Oh, I should have read the letter. I can see what this is. Okay, it wasn't James. But it just shows you what we think of James, that we automatically think it might have been. So there you go. All right, so what this is, I got a phone call a while back from Record Power. So you guys know I've got my big lathe here in the background. Over there's the big fella. That's the Record Power. I'm sitting on top of it. There's a bunch of Stanwell pipes which I tidied up earlier on this evening. I can show those to you if you want. All right, so a while back I got a phone call from the supplier, and they said that there's been a recall on these lathes because there is a bolt which holds the headstock onto the lathe which has failed on one lathe, possibly 2 lathes, 1 or 2 lathes, definitely 1, possibly a second one. And they basically sent a letter and said everybody needs to stop using the lathes. They're producing a new part, to a new bolt, which will be, you'll be able to fit by yourself. There'll be a video instruction manual, and there'll be a printed instruction manual how to do it. It's a user replaceable part. But they said everybody who has this lathe should stop using it. There's very little risk with it, but because it's happened that it's come off for one user, you need to stop using it. So it was a lady that called up from the supplier, and I said, so what are they expecting? When are they going to have this replacement part out? So they said it'll take about a month. So I said, what are you expecting? Are you expecting me to down tools for a month? Are you offering any kind of loan lathe? You know, I have no issues with the lathe as such. Okay, I don't know if it could fail at any time, but what are you expecting your customers to do? So she said she doesn't really know. She understands fully what I'm saying. I mean, it's not designed to be a business kind of lathe. I said, well, I don't even know what that means. I can make anything that I buy into a business machine if I want to. The fact is I'm using it on a daily basis. She said, well, they hope to get it done sooner rather than later, but it could be up to 4 or 5 weeks. And then I got a call a little bit after that from somebody at Record Power themselves, and they said that he's got the same lathe, this guy, and to be honest, he hasn't stopped using it. He doesn't think there's any risk. It's happened to one machine, but they have to cover themselves. And that's exactly what I said to him. All this has been is exercising covering your backsides. And rather than actually thinking about what your customers are going to do when you tell them to stop using it, you know, it's really, you're not offering a solution. If you say, stop using it, here's the part, and use it once you've changed the part, fine. But you can't say, stop using it for 4 or 5 weeks, and then we'll send you a part. Anyway, I didn't stop using it. I've used it all the way through, and this is what the part is. So that is the new bolt. You can see there's a big old bolt in there. I'll have to look into that. But this they've sent as a gesture of goodwill. That's what it says in the letter. I haven't opened it, but that's what it says. So, you know what? It's a nice gesture. They've sent the smallest chuck they can send. It's a tiny little chuck. I don't know what I'll use this for. I might be able to get 18 mil rod stock in there. That's about it. But still, it's the thought that counts, I guess. Right. Well, that's the mystery solved. Put that back in there. So I've got these racks, which we'll get to in a minute. I'll quickly show you the pipes. I have shown them partly before, but I've actually still got to wipe them. I've just been buffing them and polishing them. So I'm going to quickly run through them. I'm not going to do a sale now or anything like that, but you can just take this as a quick preview. There's a whole series of year pipes here, and this one is 2001. $19.99. These are all Stanwell year pipes. 1998. Beautiful Danish egg kind of shape. This one is actually, this is not a year pipe, this is a Paul Stanwell collection pipe. The grain on this one is exceptional. I've not seen a Stanwell with grain like this before. This you have to see with the other camera. It's just mind-blowing grain on that. 1994 year pipe, Canadian, 9mm. 1997 Dublin. These are all in beautiful condition. Now the next is 7 year pipes in the dress finish. This one is 1995. I've had some of these shapes before, in the regular smooth or rusticated or sandblasted, not in these dress finish. That's the same as that one. So that will be 1998. Yep. I had this one before as well. This is Christmas 2000, so the Millennium Christmas pipe. Nice chunky apple. This one is 1997. A bully, nice bulldog. This one is 1999. A pot. And you've got the same one here as well, in a rusticated finish. This one is panelled, like a hexagon shaped shank, and this one is 1996. It's a straight apple almost, not quite, maybe more billiard, but it's somewhere in between a billiard and an apple. And this one finally is the 2000 year pipe, Millennium. I had a new one of these, unsmoked one of these, which Jason Mouton now has. We did a trade. So that's the 2000 one, but this one, these have all been smoked. Anyhow, at some point I keep saying I'm going to do a sale of these pipes, but I'm not ready yet. I mean, some of them are ready, some of them aren't. Again, if you've seen something that you absolutely are in love with and you don't want anybody else to jump in there, you can certainly get in touch with me with pleasure. A small chuck for turning tampers, yeah, that's an idea. The small one that I have at the moment is this one is better than that, so it's actually not a bad idea. Other than the salt alcohol treatment, no, that's the Rolls-Royce of treatments, really. You just might have to repeat it a few times, depending on how bad the ghosting is. Hey Andrew, how you doing? Well, did you take a sneak peek? Smarty Bob, Pipe Brazil, hello my brother! No problem, Daniel. I'm smoking the Carolina Red from 2018, and it's really nice so far, nice and smooth. Hey, you got the pipe? You received it? I'm glad you got it finally. All right, so you guys have probably been seeing these pipe racks. You're being good, well done. So you guys have probably seen these pipe racks doing the rounds on various YouTube channels. So I must be honest, I've been a little bit tardy. I should have done this video a long time ago, and I've pushed it off for one reason or another. And Mo, the guy who makes them, quite rightly, he's basically said it's been a month now, you know, get on with it kind of thing. So here we go. So this is made by a guy called Mo Khalef. He puts these, he makes these up, and they're made out of solid wood. He asked me if he could send them to me, if I could do a review on my channel. So I thought it'd be a nice idea maybe just to construct it live and see how straightforward it is, and you can make a decision yourselves on whether it's something that you'd like to have. He sent me two. I can't remember if he said that they are different sizes or two of the same. I'm not sure. So they come as I think they're a two-tier pipe rack, which you can use either depending on how many pipes you have. You can use it as a two-tier, or use it as one-tier pipe rack and use the other shelf for storing your tins or whatever. So these ones, assuming they fit the bill for me, they'll go upstairs. Oh, cool. You even get a little screwdriver. Oh. So he also sent me in the email a little description, and this is, I think this is like a floating design. So there's brackets on the actual inside of the shelves, and you can just screw it straight to the wall, so it doesn't have to sit on anything. It's called a floating design, I think he calls it. It looks fairly straightforward. Let's see. or they put it together on their live as well. I didn't see that. I must be honest that oftentimes I'll open everything up, look at it. If I feel I know what's going on, I'll just put it together. And sometimes it works, and sometimes you come a cropper. Actually, these are pretty good for wrapping pipes up with. So I will hold on to those. Thank you, Mo, for those. Alright, so those are your pipes, the bits that grab the pipe. Very lightweight wood. Let's see if he wrote to me what wood it is. Okay, let me read you a couple of things he's written here on the email. Here are a few points about the pipe rack that I hope you mention in the review video. The pipe rack is a two-tier floating shelf style. That means it is made to be mounted on the wall with a minimal look with the help of internal brackets. But some people obviously would prefer to keep it on a desk or a set of drawers or something like that. The rack can accommodate 14 pipes, but you obviously can choose to use one level or both levels. He sells them for $37.99 or $227.94 for 6 racks. It's made out of 3/4 inch solid wood. Doesn't say which wood it is though. And the website is called yorkbazaar.com. YORKBAZAAR.com. So check him out. Alright, so let's get cracking with this. Top. That's the bottom, and that looks like a sliding shelf. So alright, I think that's pretty much it. Famous last words. Oh dang it, I think I've realised I've let my drill out to my son. Hang on. The battery on this one is a bit knackered. What I will do is I will screw them down, but not solidly, so that I can, what I like to do is whenever I'm doing anything, whenever I'm putting together any kind of wood, I like to glue as well as screw together. So It's really straightforward, really very straightforward indeed. The only thing I'm just checking is where the groove is, so that should be at the front, so that your pipes, the base of the pipes sit in that, so that the pipes don't slide. I think it's worthwhile just being careful not to over tighten. It's all pre-drilled, so there's no need. You could split the wood if you over tighten. Right, so that goes in there. Oh, first mistake. They're not designed to slide in and out. So you have to put them in as you're screwing, which makes it a little bit. Well, it's worthwhile doing it just for this, so you don't make the same mistake if you buy it. That's number one. That's number two. Just got to spread it to get the bottom one in. This makes it a little bit more fiddly, but once you realize what you need to do, you're good to go. Alright, that one fits better on that one. Get in there. No, it's not designed to be slid in and out. I thought it was as well, but it's not. Last one. Look, like anything with woodwork, if you're a little bit handy, you can adjust it. So what I would say is this: if you would rather that the shelves, see, this one actually does move around a bit. That one doesn't. So there's obviously a very slight discrepancy. But the simplest thing to do is to just sand the ends. Sand the ends of the, as long as obviously the bottom one has to be screwed, and the top one is obviously the cover. But this one it actually does. That one slides. This one slides. This one is, you know, there's obviously a little bit of a tolerance there, so you can just literally a bit of sandpaper off the ends, and that will be movable as well. Let's put some pipes in. I'm doing this backwards, but looks nice, doesn't it? It's a lovely Escorti, an Estate Escorti, which I haven't cleaned up yet. Got that in recently. It's just sitting on my bench. Well, there you go. Obviously, I need to see what I'm doing, and that will look nicer, presumably. There you go. So pretty easy to put together, really very easy. Just remember that is to keep it loose before you put all the shelves in. But very, very simple. And in terms of the hooks at the back, they're literally picture hooks, like keyhole style hooks. So you use a smaller screw and it slides in, and I think it actually provides them. Yeah, so you've got them with a roll plug there. It's really simple. I'll just open the other box and see if it's anything different. Yeah, it's $40. It's really a very reasonable price. You can't buy a five pipe stand for that kind of money. I think it's the same thing. Yeah, it's the same thing. Well, it was very nice of him to send me two. There's no need for that. Okay, so that one will definitely be going upstairs. In here, these aren't really suitable because they're not going to protect them from the dust, but they're going to be perfect for upstairs. So I'm very happy with that. Mo, thank you very much, and I'm sorry again for the delay. But as I said to him in an email, we've seen quite a few of these videos, and if everybody would have done them at exactly the same time, everybody would have seen it and done with. Like this, I've stretched it out so he's got more exposure over a longer period of time. Mo, I hope you make a great success of it, guys. It's it's a very simple. I think, you know, many times I've thought, I'm not just giving you like sales shtick here. I'm just saying it as it is. I haven't really gone over the top, you know, selling it because I got this free. You know, I made that clear to you from the beginning that I got this free. But what I will say is this: if he was to ask me for feedback, I would say that it would be worthwhile possibly considering putting some felt on the shelves. But for $40, I'm not complaining. I mean, it's a very good deal for $40. But people who buy it can do a little bit of customization and make it their own. So a little bit of felt on the base to protect the pipes, I think would be a nice touch. There was another point I was going to make, and I don't remember what it was. It's very lightweight, so you got no issues about hanging it anywhere. I would even say you could hang it on a wall without bothering with wall plugs. You could use picture nails even. You know, it's very light. Unless you start putting a bunch of tins on there, that's a different matter. What was I going to say? I don't recall. I was going to say something. I guess it would be easy enough to put a couple of doors on there anyway, but that would be easy enough, I guess, if you wanted to. Oh yeah, so what I remember what I was going to say now. What I was going to say is that many times I've thought about making a shelf unit myself, a pipe rack myself, but it's always been this piece here, which has been a challenge to me. I could do it with a drill and whatnot, and I can do it, you know, and cut those bits out, no problem. But I don't have a router, and I don't have the basic tools which would make this an easy job. I could do it and it not be an easy job, but I've never wanted to get around to it. So having it like this, I think for $40, I think is a no-brainer. So that's really the point I wanted to make, is that it's for the value for money on this is phenomenal. All right, Mo, I hope you're happy with that. And I will be putting that upstairs without a doubt. I'm left with a screw. Doom, doom, doom. Instruction manual. Seriously? Which man uses an instruction manual? Right, have I missed out a screw somewhere? No, it's all there. Maybe it's just a spare screw. That goes back there. That goes back there. This is my son Ruffy's been working on this pipe. He's sanded it and stained it. This is an old Danmore pipe, which is a defunct Danish company. I got 3 pipes. Kind of from the same series. I rusticated one of them and sold it. I gave it a carve blast, and this one I let Ruffy sand and do whatever he wanted with. And there's still a 3rd one in the drawer. Yeah, I guess so, Josh. Yeah, so the site is I don't know if it'll let me. Oh, it does let you do it. There you go. YorkBazaar.com. So haven't seen me doing it, you won't make that same mistake of screwing it together before putting the shelves in. It doesn't need to take you more than 5 minutes, really. If any of you guys got any tips on where I can get a Stanwell pipe display box, like the one I've got there, but with a Stanwell name on it, that would be a huge favour to me. I would love to be able to present that in a box, in a Stanwell box. Well, I showed some of you guys the other day that I found my All It Golden Slice pipe. I've been looking for that for a long time. It was languishing in the bottom of a cupboard inside a bag of mine. But what I haven't found yet is my billiard, my Parker billiard. And that one is a bit of a mystery to me. I hope I didn't leave it in the vacation house somewhere. I don't remember if I took it or not. I'll have to look back on one of my videos where I showed the pipes that I took with me on vacation. But I don't know where that pipe is. I guess it could be out here somewhere. I've got so much stuff sitting up here, it's ridiculous. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Not disgusting. All I had to do was look for it. There it is. I'm relieved. There you go. I'm already being treated, Charlie. It's got such a nice ring grain, this pipe. This was a basket pipe at JJ Fox's. Can you believe that? Look at that ring grain. Sandblast, gorgeous sandblast. This was a basket pipe. And I've tried to figure out why this was a basket pipe. And I've yet to really come up with a solid answer. Ian, welcome back. Shalom. How's life in Germany? Did you get any good beer while you were there? They're famous for their beers. Silham's Black and an LCS pot. Is that the sandblasted one? I watched your video before, Charlie. Talking about Castellos, Daniel, I have set myself a goal. I had set myself this goal a while back to get a Castello pipe. And I've had a couple of close runs. So I bought one from GQ Tobaccos a while back. It was a push fit stem. So I was thinking of just changing out the stem and drilling the hole wider. But the shank, in other words, a non-flush shank stem. I got it from GQ Tobaccos, and I told Sam that if I can do it, I'll keep it. If I can't do it, I'd like to give it back. He said, yeah, sure, no problem. But when it came, the shank was too narrow. I then got one off eBay from Chance Whittemore. He's called Great Estate Pipes, I think his eBay page is called. Chance Whitmore. Anyway, I bought a Castello Bulldog from him. But there were a couple of things which I wasn't very happy about, and he took it back without any problems. And then, miracle of miracles, Mike, Briar Blues, he came up with a, I think it was a Billiard or a Lovat, I can't remember, but a 9mm. So Castello don't do 9mm, and they've always said they won't do it. But obviously, this one was officially converted by somebody in Italy. Oh, good for you, Ian. But it was a lot of money. It was beyond me at the time. So what is this? What's this thing again? McBaron's letter key rolls that fell off the shelf. So I still don't have a Castello pipe. And what I'd like to still do is get one of their smooth pipes that can be converted easily to 9mm, and I'll put my own stem on it if the stem can't be converted. So far, from what I've seen, their stems are very narrow for the most part. It would have to be a pipe which hasn't got a flush stem or shank, because it's too much hassle to convert, too risky to convert it if it's a flush fit. For that, I'd have to send it away. I can't do that myself. It's too risky. I mean, I can do it, but it's just too risky. I don't have the right tools for it. But a non-flush shank, I can just drill that for 9mm and make my own stem. Castello smokes horribly. When you say it smokes horribly, in what way? It doesn't stay lit, it tastes horrible, it gurgles. What do you mean by that, Aidan? It doesn't smoke dry. Well, you got to check out the oh, right, is that the pipe you were talking about before? So you bought that as a second-hand pipe? Yeah, that's always a risk with estate pipes. For the most part, I've been lucky with the estate pipes that I've bought. It's I have had the odd one or two which had a Lakeland ghosting, and some with Latakia, but the vast majority were either Burley or Virginia, which is fairly neutral. So I've been lucky overall. Yeah, I kind of went, I started off finding that when I first started smoking a pipe, I found the whole concept of estate pipes to be quite repulsive. I was kind of grossed out by the whole concept of smoking a pipe that had been in somebody else's mouth with their saliva all over it, dribbling in and out of it, and all of that kind of stuff. And I was grossed out by the whole idea. But once I got my first estate pipe that smoked well, obviously I did the cleaning and all of that. And once I got parts of my head around it, it's never been an issue anymore. Josh. So it's never been an issue for me. Obviously, they need to be cleaned out thoroughly, and although I've never done a salt treatment, I've always just cleaned out with alcohol, give it a quick ream. If a pipe's got a disgusting taste, I wouldn't say disgusting, if it's got a taste that I don't like for instance, Lakeland, or I find that a Latakia pipe that's been smoked for a long time and then left, it needs some time to get back into itself, to come back to life. You get a pipe, for instance, like a Virginia pipe or an aromatic pipe, like a sweet aromatic pipe. You can go straight into another aromatic and smoke it and enjoy it, and it's probably not going to be a problem. But if you get a Latakia pipe or a Lakeland pipe, and assuming you don't like Lakelands, sometimes, especially if you buy it from a dealer on eBay, you'll get a pipe which smells nice, and it's actually the alcohol, like refresher or the evergreen or whichever one they use to refresh the pipe. But it's not necessarily that they've actually done a full salt alcohol treatment. And what they've done is cleaned it with an alcohol treatment, and it tastes okay. But once you smoke it 2 or 3 times, that's gone, and what you get is the history of the pipe starting to come through. And that's when you know if you've got a good one or not. Yeah, Idan, exactly the same. I would agree with you entirely. I've got some great pipes which smoke fantastic, and they have been estate pipes. And if I'm honest, pipes that I've smoked from new that have been fantastic smokers, this is going to sound a little bit conceited, but my best new pipes are my own pipes, LCS pipes. It's not to say that, for instance, I've got some Northern Briars which are fantastic. I'm not saying only LCS pipes, but my Northern Briars Quebec is a phenomenal pipe. I've got a couple of Ascorti pipes which smoke beautifully. I'm not going to talk about the square shanked one now, but the other one, which has got, I think it's a Christmas pipe from 1999. That one smokes beautifully. I haven't smoked it in a while though. It's a rusticated pipe, but with a smooth band running down the center of the pipe. Smokes beautifully, an effortless smoker. But I'm down just to, I think, 3 Northern Briars pipes now, and those basically the ones that I've smoked the best I've kept. The Stanwell pipes that I used to have were in my regular rotation. I've now sold, with a certain, I wouldn't say regret, but the guy who bought them was a collector who basically made me an offer that I couldn't refuse. So I sold those. It's the same with the Northern Briars 60th anniversary pipes. I bought 2. They were only 60 made. I bought 2. I never even smoked them, but that same collector made me an offer I couldn't refuse. And I sold both of them outright, unsmoked. I would say this pipe as well. This is a humble, little rusticated billiard with an interesting shape. There's unconventional sort of shank there. I bought that on eBay. I think I paid about 50 quid for it, 40 or 50 pounds. I think I got this one new though. This is an RC Sands pipe, and he makes just good solid smoking pipes, in the old American tradition. Nothing too fancy, nothing too crazy, and for $40–50, I think now they go for more money. But this one is a solid smoker. It smokes very well. It's reliable. It's quite a neutral smoker, a bit like my Northern Briars Quebec. I can smoke pretty much any pipe, any tobacco, and it not be influenced by the pipe very much. Yeah, that's a good point, Josh. Well, it wouldn't make sense with me because, as I've always said, I make pipes that I like. When I make a pipe, I make it to, unless it's a commission, but even then it will have my own kind of feel to it. Um, you obviously, some pipes work out better than others, and for the vast majority of the pipes that I make, I am always tempted to keep them for myself. When that happens, I know I've made a good pipe. On the odd occasion that it doesn't happen, and I don't really fancy the pipe, it's not because it's not a good pipe, it's because simply I've made it in a design which just doesn't particularly interest me. But for the vast majority of the pipes that I make, I'm sorely tempted to keep them for myself. And that tells me I've made a good pipe. Well, Daniel, that's a good point, but I would say that most pipe carvers have been through a journey of smoking pipes before they decide to make pipes. I wouldn't say all, but most. So by the time I got to to making a pipe, I'd already been smoking a pipe for a few years and gone through the whole roller coaster of pipe styles, lengths, bent, straight, filtered, not filtered, um, saddle bit, non-saddle bit, tapered, Canadians, oval shanks, long shanks, short shanks, stubby pipes, heavy pipes, magnum pipes, all the different styles and I went through all of it. So you have a pretty good experience by the time most carvers I think probably go through that journey. Hey, Stephen, Kathy, before they actually come to make a pipe. But yes, it's certainly a good idea. And I'm just trying to think. I must be honest with you. I haven't really studied other pipes when it comes to making pipes. I haven't. My pipe making really still stems from that first live video when I made that first pipe together with Glenn, Pipe Nutter, or Drop Bear Woodworks, um, and this other guy whose name I'm ashamed to say that I don't remember. Something to do with soap industries. I can't remember. Homestead something. Soap Homestead. I can't remember. I haven't heard from him for a long, long time. And but they held my hand during the process of making that first video. And my process of making a pipe, although it's different now to some extent, it's based. The foundation of my pipe making is based on that experience. And I obviously glean information from magazines, from books that I've read. But I know that there are some pipe makers out there who have had pipes and they study pipes that have been made by other people. I've actually never done that. And I've always just made the pipes the way I feel they ought to be. And happily, I'm happy to say that that's kept me in good stead. And obviously that comes from my previous experience of smoking pipes. Like to give an example, Boswell pipes. Okay, when I first got into Boswell pipes, I was hooked, and I bought tons of their pipes, literally tons. I wouldn't like to say how many I bought. I currently have still 3 or 4, which I've converted to 9mm, and they're great smoking pipes. And I've always wondered why they're so good. And I still don't know to this day if that's the reason, but all of them have got tapered bowls. All of them. All the ones that I have. I don't know if that's a standard thing he does with all of his pipes, but all the ones that I have tapered bowls. I've started now, all of my pipes now, nearly, I would say 95% of my pipes are now tapered bowls. And people report that they're very happy, that they smoke very well from the off. So I don't know if that's got anything to do with it. Obviously, the rest of the pipe is something to do with it as well, the rest of the construction. But generally speaking, I've had really good reports from people who smoke my pipes. Boswell pipes, I can't say enough good about them. They smoked good from day one. I don't know what bowl coating he uses, because that may have something to do with it. It gives you a good kickstart. So that's always a downside when you have a naked bowl, and my pipes generally are, with a few exceptions sometimes, but sometimes if I feel that there's maybe the walls are a bit thin or something like that, I'll put in a bowl coating, or if the having a black inside just finishes the pipe design, the style of the pipe, then I'll do it. But generally speaking, my bowls are naked bowls. But I don't know. It could well see when you have a naked bowl, there's always that fresh briar taste, which some people like, some people don't like. I personally don't like it. So when somebody smokes a pipe and he says, "Well, it wasn't so good in the beginning," that could be the reason. It's one of the reasons why I use honey when I break in a pipe. It creates that little bit of a barrier. Yeah, I mean, his website, he uploads usually anything from 10 to 15 pipes each week, and they all sell within a couple of days. They're all gone. I used to be like that. I used to be on there waiting, refreshing the page whenever he uploaded his pipes, and if there was one that I liked, I pulled the trigger. I wouldn't say every week. I didn't buy a pipe every single week, but many, many weeks. His prices have gone up since I bought my pipes from him, but they're still a good price overall, considering it is an artisan pipe. It's a few hours nowadays, is it? Wow. Well, there you go. He's got a reputation for a reason. His pipes smoke well. A lot of them look big, Andrew. Obviously, the big ones are big, but some of them look bigger than they really are, and you can usually tell by the price. If it's in the $150 region, it's not going to be that big. I mean, obviously the measurements are there, but sometimes they look bigger than they really are. What are my thoughts on the Nirup pipe you had? I've had a couple of Nirups. I've had 3 or 4 actually. Which one are you referring to? I had a beautiful bulldog in Nirup, which had fantastic straight grain on one side at least. That one smoked well. And I think the most recent one, I didn't really get a chance to break it in properly. Hey, Boris. So I never really got a great smokes out of that last one that I had because I just didn't give it a chance. They're a great value pipe. And there's a certain artisanish look to them because they're never identical. You'll have some which are very similar. So that bulldog shape, for instance, that I had, you do see them coming up time and time again. I've never seen one with a grain as good as the one I had since, but they are basically made the same, but they all have a slight difference to them. Whether it's obviously the grain is going to be different, but the stems are often different, and the shaping might be just very slightly different because I think they are finished by hand. I think they are. I think each one is slightly different, so they have a certain artisan element to them. What have I learned from making the first pipe to my current pipe? Everything. every aspect of pipe making, just getting better at each part of it. But obviously, there's been a lot of developments. Different shapes that I've done. That pipe that I did that time was, I don't recall. I think it was a fairly long shanked billiard, or a Dublin or something like that, which is quite a long, not quite pencil thin, but quite a long thin shank, I think it was. But obviously since then, obviously making stems is one of my most recent developments, which I've been doing pretty much on every pipe almost. Almost, not every pipe, but almost every pipe. And I think I'm probably going to be doing a two-tier system now. And I'll probably be doing some, like a range of pipes with pre-formed stems, and then an upper range with handmade, hand-cut stems. So that way I can make the pipes quicker and sell them cheaper as well. So for argument's sake, this pipe, this is not a hand-cut stem. It's obviously, I've done work to it, but it's not hand-cut from scratch. But you look at that pipe, you wouldn't know that. I mean, it's so well in tune with the pipe. It's a gorgeous pipe, but I can make pipes like that a lot quicker and sell them cheaper. Making a stem is half the time of the pipe. You got to reckon on a couple of hours to make a stem at least. An eye for the Brian the grain. Andrew, I'm still not there. You learn all the time, and you learn with every block, and you try to get the best out of every block. But I will probably never get the absolute best out of a block unless I do it freehand. In other words, I drill it after I've shaped it. I don't see that happening in the near future. It might happen in the future, I don't know. But to get the absolute best every time, it's not to say that I won't get the best out of a block, but to be able to be sure to get the best out of a block, you have to really do it freehand. And many times you can read the block and get the best that you can possibly do whilst not doing it freehand. And that's something which I feel I've improved on in leaps and bounds over the couple of years. And I've been very fortunate and been able to produce pipes with nice grain. So that's really something which I try to improve on all the time. But you kind of improve all the time, Andrew. But in terms of the more blocks that you do, Andrew, the more you will feel familiar with it. It's as simple as that. The more variety of patterns you see in the block, you'll start to learn where in the burl that block has come from. So you can look at a block. So the first thing to know is that what you pay for the block, there's a reason for it. So for argument's sake, this is a Mimo block, grade 3. Now it's a grade 3 for a reason. When you look at it, it looks perfectly clean. There's no issues on it, and it looks fine. And you could sand off the sides, and you'll see beautiful flame or straight grain. But then obviously you're cutting a shape. So imagine you're doing an apple there, right? So the vast majority of briar is going to come off this pipe. And by the time you get to your final shape, where's all the grain gone? You might end up with having nice grain on one side, but really rubbish grain on the other side. And that's because to get, really perfect straight grain, you're going to have to be, somewhere on the block. If you imagine the block, the burl as a circle with the center somewhere over there, and you've got your grain going up like that. But if you've got a burl which is, and you get a piece of the block which is on the turn like that, well, I suppose if it's round, they're all going to be on the turn. But essentially what I'm saying is that depending on the angle of where the block has come out of the burl, your grain can actually be going in a different direction than what it shows on the edge. And you start to get to feel that as you go along. The more blocks you see, the more you get to, the more familiar you get with it. Hey Phil, how you doing? I'm just looking back at the older messages. Charlie, just reading your message. Yes, I bet Josh does. I'm very grateful to Josh because he really did support me early in the early days. Put my kids through school. He did. Yeah, they're cut from rods. So that's this is an Eldritch rod. This pipe that I'm smoking now, this is a wide one, but you can get narrower ones. But this one is made from that. It's a beautiful stem. There's all different types of rod stocks you can get. You can get, ebonite. Got this green and black ebonite, which is very nice. This is a composite which I had Eldritch make for me, which is a blue and white, which produces a beautiful blue and white swell. I would say that, Bernard, that the vast majority of artisan pipe makers will do hand cut stems. I didn't for a long time. For the first couple of years, I always did a few. Every so often I would do a hand cut stem. But there was a time where I just suddenly clicked and said, that's it, I'm doing hand cut stems. And since then I've done the vast majority of the pipes have got hand cut stems. I suppose it's just developing a process. And initially when I was doing it, I was using a belt sander, and I just wasn't happy with the process. It was just a process which didn't work for me. And then I started just literally freehanding them, and I developed a way to sort of work out where the hole is and how to drill it. And that, I must say that the way I make the stems, I've really self-taught myself on it, and I'm happy with it. It works. So, initially when I first started doing them, it was taking me 3-4 hours to do a stem. Sometimes even longer. But now, if I would really go at it hammer and tongs, I could probably do one in an hour and a half. But I tend to break it up. So first thing I'll do is I'll glue in the tenon, and then line it up on the pipe on the lathe to get the junction smooth. And then sometimes I'll be gluing a band to the shank, like this one. So that has to set, that glue. So whilst that's setting, I'll make a start on shaping the stem. And I try to not do it in one go because it becomes difficult. The sanding and just sanding and sanding and sanding and sanding, it does take it out of you. So I try to break it up. So I'll glue that, and while that's gluing, I'll do the basic shaping of it and get the basic sanding done. And then I'll go back to it when I'm doing the staining of the pipe and letting it dry. Then I'll use that time to finish off the stem. Exactly that, Phil. It's muscle memory. You got to do things the way you like them, and the way you like doing it, the way it works for you, and then you're just developing muscle memory. 100%. Couldn't agree with you more on that. I remember early on, Phil will remember when I was asking him questions, basic stuff. And Phil is one of the most generous guys with his knowledge. So I'm going to give you full props right here and now in front of you. Sorry for embarrassing you. But if you're serious about your pipe making, then Phil will be as generous as any other guy that I know. In fact, more generous than pretty much anybody else that I know. There's a handful of guys who have been very, very free and easy with their information. And everybody keeps back some stuff, and that's 100% right. You know, everybody wants to have a certain edge for their own particular way of doing things. But Phil's been very, very open with me. Ian Walker's been very helpful to me, very, very helpful all the way through. And I get tidbits of information from various pipe makers all over the place. Yeah, Phil's been great. But probably what's going to be the most helpful to you is just practice more than anything else. And like I say, when I started making the hand cut stems, it just fell into place. You know, I just did it, and then once I developed a process, it just gets better and better and better. One of the things I'm now really sort of focusing on is the slot. So it's each pipe that I do, it gets better, and I was starting to get very frustrated about it, about the fact that, and you'll see some of my pipes from even as short a while ago as even a month ago, the slots now will be neater. It won't affect the smoking because I make sure that the draw is absolutely fine, but just the slot could be neater, you know, I'll admit that. And but they're getting better all the time, and it's just practice. Daniel, in terms of doing shapes and leaves and claws, I don't rule that out. It's not my style, but I don't rule it out. You know, it's not. I wouldn't say never. I never say never. I don't like the idea of using it to cover up blemishes. That I don't do. If a pipe, has a little a spot, a black line, or whatever it might be on the surface, I have no problem with leaving it there if it doesn't take away from the overall look of the pipe. If it's that bad that it would need a leaf or something like that, then I'll rusticate the whole pipe. I'll do a carved blast nowadays, or a C-rock, or a reef as I call it. But doing these little random designs to cover up blemishes is totally anathema to me. It just, I've always balked at pipes and that I've seen with those designs on. It's just not me. Some people love it, some people like it, and that's fine. Everybody has different tastes. I've seen pipes from makers that I really like and respect, and I have their pipes, and they'll have a pipe with one leaf on the side of the thing, and it's too random to me. It's obvious that they're covering something up, and I understand why they've done it, but if you're going to put one leaf, at least make a pattern and do one on the other side, make it equal. The pipe that I did with the Ivorite dots on the side, it's still on my website. It hasn't sold, and I can understand, you know, it's not everybody's taste, but it needed, it had a blemish on one side, so I did that. I thought you know, as an experiment, I thought I'd try that out. I put a nice big Ivorite rim on the rim of the pipe, but it had to, in my eye, is symmetrical, and I need things to be symmetrical, unless I'm doing a completely asymmetrical carved pipe, maybe like a sculpture type of pipe, but otherwise the pipe needs to be symmetrical. So I did a dot on one side, so I matched it. I did one there, and one there. To me, that was the best way that I could do that pipe. In terms of tapered stems versus saddle bits, my stems that I'm making are kind of a halfway house between the two. So I'm doing this kind of half saddle, but it's not a proper saddle, and it's have I got one here? I haven't really got one here now to show you, but I've kind of made that my kind of shape that I do very often. It's a bit early days to call it a signature stem. It's nothing new. I'm not, you know, inventing anything, but for me it's what I've been doing quite a lot of. But the tapering, it's like anything, Andrew. Your shaping will just come with practice. It's the same as shaping. It's the same as shaping a bowl. That comes with practice, and the more you do it, the more it'll improve. And you get a feel for it. You get to a point where, although when you're working, you'll see my videos of me sort of sanding away at a stem or at the wheel. And although you have to keep looking at it to make sure you've got a good balance, but after a while, you know instinctively if you've gone too far on one side than the other, and that's muscle memory, and it just takes practice. And sometimes you rely on your muscle memory too much, and you end up making it lopsided, and you have to correct it. So it's always important to check as you go along. But you'll find that the more practice you have, the less you'll need to do that. But it is still important to do that. The sea urchin that I ordered it. I mean, it's a standard shape that he makes, but I ordered it. It was a commission. Yeah. No, I have, Bernard, I have no problem rusticating a pipe. I do my carve blast a lot. The Cobra pipe that I just made for Gary, that one is got my carve blast on it, but a much more exaggerated carve blast, really deep, craggy carve blast. I think it looks awesome. And you just kind of you vary the finish, depending on the pipes. I don't think that there's anything new out there. Every shape that you come out. I mean, you can take a block of briar, follow the grain kind of, even if you do it freehand and drill it afterwards. You can follow it, and it's not a new shape. You're basically what you're doing is you're creating a sculpture, almost a piece of art out of a piece of wood. And unless you then made lots of pipes exactly the same, so it can become a signature shape. But when you're doing, say, a blowfish or something like that, which is very rare to actually for people to invent brand new shapes, it can happen. But I think nowadays the chances of that happening are scarcer and scarcer, um, because at the end of the day, the pipe still. I mean, you could make any shape you like and say this is my new shape, but essentially the pipe still needs to be based around utilitarian idea. It's still got to be a pipe. It's still got to be smokable and got to make sense. It's got to be pleasing to the eye. The lines have to work on the pipe. So just to make any haphazard shape and say this is my new shape, it's not necessarily going to take on. You know, if you look at the pipes that have been so the more recent shapes, like say the blowfish or the snail or the some of the more recent the Egyptian inspired um, pipes, they're all still variations of classic designs, but they've tightened the design. So for instance, if you take the Ramesses, it's essentially a bent Dublin, but it's been stretched on the sides, and it's the key thing on those is the use of the grain. It's reading the block and the use of the grain, where you've got the straight grain on the sides and bird's eye across the body of the pipe. That's what makes those shapes shine, and those shapes have been born out of freehand pipe making. In other words, following the grain. So at some point, somebody was following the grain of the pipe and created that in order to make the most out of that bird's eye and the grain on the side. And then basically it's worked, and that's become a new shape. But it's essentially a bent Dublin with phenomenal use of the grain in the block. That's essentially what it is. All the best, Charlie. Yeah, absolutely, Phil. It's usually born out of having to move around and juggle because you've had to avoid some kind of flaw. Yeah, 100%. I think the answer is in your question, Daniel. The shape pipe. The ukulele pipe comes from, inspired by the ukulele. Yeah, I mean the inventiveness of pipe makers nowadays is phenomenal. The Yeah, I would agree. The Russian carvers are doing some phenomenal stuff. I think the Americans are doing some fantastic stuff. The Danish pipe makers are kind of, you know, we recognize those shapes. They've already become classics, and they do it so well. But they haven't really brought out anything new recently. But I think that also a lot of the Russian carvers, what they're doing so well is the staining, how the highly polished finish of the pipes and the staining. I've seen some really interesting magnetic joints of the stem and shank where it literally just clicks into position. You don't screw it in, and it just, as soon as you put it near one near the other, it jumps in and the stem clicks onto the shank. Those are really cool. Yeah, so um, Stephen Cathy, there is a carver who does a lot of those animal shapes, especially sort of sea creature shapes. I did see an article about that a while ago. The great pipe makers will make those shapes, but still utilize the grain. So they will wait a long time till they find the right block to make a particular shape, but they won't just make the shape out of any block. Other people will. So other people, for instance, if they're making, say, a whale shape, they'll just make the shape, and however the grain works out, it works out. But the great pipe makers will have that shape in mind and wait for the right block that will give them that shape, but with stunning grain, where the grain is poetic. In other words, it's not just nice grain, but it's nice grain in a symmetrical way. So one part of it is fully bird's eye, the other part is fully straight grain, cross grain. That's the difference between the great pipe makers and other good pipe makers. Yeah, Idan, I mean that's the dream. You know, being recognized, have your pipes being recognized without looking at a stamp. That's the dream. And some pipe makers never make that, and some pipe makers take years till they can actually sort of carve, for want of a better word, excuse the pun, carve out a style that people start to recognize. Um, I don't yet know myself what my style is. I mean, I do to an extent, but it's based on just what I've done till now. But would I say that I have a particular style? I don't know. If somebody asks me what's my pipe making philosophy, um, I simply say at the moment is that my pipes are a more modern take on classical shapes. They're not far out. They're not very inventive, um, but they are. I'll take. Um, this is a nice example. Although it's a very basic edition, this is basically a sort of a squat apple, but it's got a modern look to it. It's got the combination of colors, um, and obviously the shaping. It just has a nice look to it. This is not such a great example, but it is an example. When you use colors and you create zones on the pipe and you create flowing lines, that's you can create a style of pipes that you make. To be honest with you, Idan, a lot of people have said that to me. A lot of people have said that they recognize my pipes before they know it's mine. I myself don't see that so much, but it's very hard for you to see it about yourself, about your own pipes, and you can only rely on other people when they tell you that. And it's very rewarding when people do say that. A lot of people have told me that about my staining, that they recognize my staining, which is very nice to hear. It's very um, rewarding to hear that. Hey, Ganji. Yeah, I mean, I've got a block sitting on the top shelf here, which, yeah, look, I've written on it blast because it needs to be blasted and I can't bring myself to carve it. And at the moment, I don't have a blasting set up, so I've just set it aside. Look at that. I haven't wet it. It's just like that. Can you see that? Is that coming through on your screens? Yeah, you do have some pipes which you just don't really want to waste. You want to make sure you get the most out of it. To that question, Daniel, I've heard often that cross grain is the better smoking pipe. No, it's not bad. This is giving you an idea of the grain, the ring grain that's in there. You sandblast that, that's going to give you a beautiful ring grain. But I don't have a sandblasting setup, that's all. Yeah, so I've heard, people used to, in the older days, people used to only want to have cross grain. And for some reason, people said that that smoked better. I don't know if that's true. I've never seen any real evidence of that. The current fashion is really more straight grain. People tend to go for that more. I actually think that cross grain is more beautiful, personally, because you've got much more of a variety of grain to look at on the pipe. And when you get a really nice Ebershorn block, which is giving you beautiful, I've done quite a few of those recently. I think Boris has a couple of those. They're just stunning. The grain, the swirly lines of the bird's eye, compared to just straight. It's beautiful, don't get me wrong. Straight grain is beautiful, but there's no variation to it. If you get a perfect straight grain, it's straight lines, and that has a beauty. But looking at a heavily bird's-eyed pipe, you can just stare at it, bring it up close to your face and stare at it. There's a certain 3D kind of effect there where you can just really look deep into the grain, especially if it's got a contrast with a dark and a light. That's why those bird's eyes look like eyes. The center of each bird's eye, there's 2 little dots or 3 little dots. And it's a thing of beauty. A bird's eye is not a defect. A bird's eye is just the end of the straight grain. You got a plateau block and you've got these all these bumpy bits. Those are your bird's eye. When you smooth that out, that's your bird's eye. And from one end of the bird's eye to the other runs grain. That's your straight grain. It's just a matter of which way up you make the pipe. If you make it this way up, you'll get the grain going that way. If you make it that way up, you get it going that way across, and you get the bird's eye on the side. Yeah, exactly, Phil. Right, gentlemen, it's 1:45. I think it's time for me to say arrivederci. Mo, in case you do watch this, thanks again for sending me these pipe stands. If you saw earlier on, I put this pipe stand together a little bit earlier on. The website you can buy them from is yorkbazaar.com. yorkbazaar.com. Check them out if you're looking for a reasonable pipe rack. This takes 24 pipes, I think. No, 1 second. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 14. Sorry, 14 pipes. It's less than $40. That's my sales pitch. If you're into getting a rack, this is a very good, reasonable option. And you can sort of improve it. You can update it. You can upgrade it. You can do lots of things to this to make this your own kind of thing. But even left as it is, it's a great thing at a great value. I do recommend it. It's not the last word in pipe racks, but it is fantastic value for money, and it will do what it says on the tin. So I'll just finish off by saying that. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, Boris. Thank you, Ganji. Thank you, Kilted. Thank you, Phil. Thank you, Idan. Thank you, Josh. Thank you, James. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Big Country Briar. Thank you, said Boris. Andrew Sirigliano. And everybody else. Thank you very much for joining. I wish you a wonderful week. And I will catch you on the next one. Incidentally, if anybody wants to put in any orders, commission or whatever, I'm bang up to date on all my pipes. So if I don't get any, I'll be starting something else. I actually have a block which I've been thinking about, dreaming about, not quite, but which will be a freehand. The shape of a lily is what's been in my mind for this pipe. The shape of a calla lily, which is a beautiful flower, but the shape of the block that I've got, it just says to me that shape of a flower. I haven't really done a flower shape for a long time. The last time I did one was like a tulip style, which was in the style of the French pipe maker Pierre Morel. And that pipe is owned by GQ Tobaccos. He bought a batch of about 8 or 9 pipes from me, and he still hasn't put them on his website. He's had them for about 1.5 years now. He keeps telling me he can't get, he's about 1 year behind in posting pipes, but I actually think he's holding on to them, and either to have them himself or to wait until the value goes up even more. I think that's where he's at, and that's absolutely fine. So that's the last time I did a flower kind of shape. But I'm really thinking of if there's no other commissions come in, then I might just do that pipe. I don't always find that the creative pipes sell as well as more regular styled pipes made well, but sometimes you just need to let your creative juices flow. All right, thank you everybody. I wish you all well. Catch you on the next one.